or spirits that you're interested in and would like to see more from us. Going into the cocktail that is featuring the Watershed vodka, I have a cocktail that I came up with called the Spice 75. I don't know if any of you are familiar with a classic cocktail called the Crunch 75, but that is what this cocktail is based on. So a way to fashion cocktails is to either sort of come up with things all entirely on your own, which is difficult. It's good to have a basis or a foundation. You have to learn the alphabet before you can start making words. So in order to know classic cocktails, that's a good basis. So a French 75, I don't know if any of you are familiar, but it is either brandy or gin based, and then an acid, such as usually lemon, and then a sugar, usually simple syrup or sugar or honey, something of that sort. So this Spice 75 is going to be featuring all of that same foundation, a base liquor, an acid, and a sweet, but all in different forms than the traditional. So for the base, instead of gin or brandy, it's going to be vodka. And then for the sweet and the acid, I did a mulled red wine reduction. So I'm sure you're familiar with those words, but maybe not in that order. So mulled red wine would be a red wine that is simmered on the stove with a lot of holiday type herbs and spices. You can add different fruit juices. You can add brandy to it. Every family usually has their own sort of recipe for it. I did include the recipe for this. There is a flyer, so you will be able to leave with all the recipes today. But my particular mulled wine recipe features honey, as well as some star anise, cinnamon, a little bit, what did I throw in there? Some Luxardo cherry syrup. So really, you can play around with that and use whatever you have in your cupboard, honestly. If you have maple syrup and you don't have honey, feel free to substitute that. This one does have honey. I love honey. I think it's got a really good flavor, a lot different than sugar. Also, with sugars, when you're thinking about white sugar, that's white because it's bleached. It's so many steps away from nature. Where I like to use cocktails that are as close to local. So Watershed is a perfect product for that. The honey, also local. I know exactly where all these things are coming from. So going into the next cocktail, it is a cocktail that I actually used for a Watershed-sponsored competition last year that was in tandem with Ron Adria. It is a cocktail called the Schwarzwald, or the Black Forest. That's the German word for Black Forest. And with that contest, we were challenged with making a cocktail that was using as many local ingredients as possible, as well as being inspired, much like a wonderful chef like Ron Adria would be by his environment. So I chose to use Watershed Herb Myrtle Aged Gin because, again, I do love that wood vanilla note, along with, so there isn't any added sugar to it, but you'll see when you taste it, it does have a sweetness. Not due to sugar, but just that flavor from the wood, at least to me. Maybe that's just my palate picking that up. And then the rest of the ingredients in this cocktail, I have a maple syrup that I cut with water, again, for the same reasons I was talking about with the agave and honey. Cut it with a little bit of water. That'll make it much more easier to use in cocktails. There's also an unfiltered apple cider in this cocktail. There's also a Dolan Rouge sweet vermouth, one of my favorite sweet vermouths. I'll go into this in a little bit, remind me about that. So this huge bottle is, I want to say definitely less than $30, in the $20 to $30 range, and it'll last you forever, really. And you can use it in hot toddy, even if you just have a regular cup of hot tea, you want to add a little pep to that, add it to a Manhattan, make a little bit of a spicy Manhattan. This is a really good trick to have up your sleeve, especially as a home bartender that you may only have a few products on your shelf. So the vermouth is red wine, or it can be red or white, and then wormwood and usually sugar, other fruits and spices.